Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. Wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma. Allahumma faqihna fid din. Allahumma barak lana fi awqatina. Ameen. Ya Rabbul Alameen. We are with you in the second program today of the Seerah, and with me are our students, our three bright students who are going to ask questions. So inshallah, let us begin. Or first of all, let me ask them to introduce themselves to you.
My name is Arfa Arif.
Sana Salim.
And my name is Imrana Khan. So nice to be back, and let us start now. In the last lecture, we had stopped at the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now today, before I start, let us discuss a little bit about what was prevalent in the Arabs at that time, the religion of the Arabs. The religion of the Arabs, they claimed that they were on Deen-e Ibrahimi. They claimed that they were monotheists. They claimed that they believed in one God, one Allah. And some remnants of Deen-e Ibrahimi was also there. They used to do tawaf around the Kaaba. When the pilgrims used to come, they used to come for Umrah. So they had some remnants of the Deen-e Ibrahimi. However, they had polluted their deen with different practices. For instance, one of their important chiefs, his name was Amr bin Luhai. He was a highly respected chief of the Quraysh. He once went to Syria on a business trip, and there he found that the people were worshipping idols. And he was fascinated by this practice. He said, "What is this huge idol you are worshipping?" So the people there told him that these are our intercessors with Allah, meaning when we make dua to Allah, these idols are going to take our dua closer to Allah, and they will take us also closer to Allah. In like some people say wasila, that these are going to become our wasila or our intercessors with Allah. Now Amr bin Luhai liked the idea. He brought the idol back home, an idol of Hubal, and he put it in the Kaaba. And then after this, the practice of paganism and idolatry started. More and more idols were brought. Lat, Manat, Uzza, and it went to the state where at the time of the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were 360 idols that adorned the Kaaba. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do tawaf, although all these idols were present in the Kaaba. So this was the religion of the Arabs at that time when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to this world. Secondly, they used to believe in a lot of superstitions. They were very superstitious people, and they also believed in divining arrows. They would have these arrows. On one they would write yes, on another they'd write no, on the third arrow they'd leave it blank. Then they'd put it inside something, and when they wanted to ask their gods or their idols some question, they would put their hand in and take out the arrow. If the arrow said yes, it meant that it is good for them to do that thing. If the arrow they picked up was no, then they will not do that thing. If the arrow they picked up had no answer, then they will do the divining arrows again. So this was what they were doing. Also, they used to take some animals and they would free them in the name of idols. Bahira, Saiba, Wasila, Ham, these were all camels which they would be freed in the name of idols, meaning they were going to take no work from these animals. They would just roam around. They'll just do whatever they want. They'll eat wherever they want. And these were freed in the name of idols. Also, they used to make nazar niyaz in the name of idols. They used to say that this year I'm going to give this much for Allah and this much for this idol. And if it so happened that the portion which they had assigned for Allah, it was not good, they would not give the portion assigned for idols and put it in the portion assigned for Allah. But if the portion that was assigned for idols, that did not come out well, then they would take Allah's portion and give it to the idols. What they did with these portions, the portion that was assigned for Allah, they would give it in charity. And the portion that was assigned for the idols, they would give to the caretakers of the idols, etc. So this was their religion at that time. What do you think? Why do you think they were doing this? What was at the back of their minds? That they would take Allah's portion and give it to, put it in the portion of the idols. But whatever was the portion of the idols, they would not give it, put it in Allah's portion. Why? What does this show?
The less belief on Allah.
Yes, it shows their priority. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for them, astaghfirullah, was at a lower priority than their idols. This is what it showed. So this was the religion of the Arabs at that time. Idolatry, paganism, all kinds of superstitions, nazar, niyaz, everything they used to do in the name of idols. They would slaughter animals in the name of idols, etc. And still they call themselves on the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam. They said that we are the descendants of Ismail alayhi salam, we are on deen Ibrahim. And they took a great pride on that. When the pilgrims used to come to perform their Hajj, these Quraysh, they would not go to Arafah. They said, we are the Quraysh, we live in Makkah, so why should we leave Makkah and go outside? All the other pilgrims went to Arafah, they did not go to Arafah. So this is what they were doing. Also, if you look at the social life of the Arabs at that time, female infanticide was very common. If any woman gave birth to a girl, in certain tribes the custom was that they would dig a ditch next to a lady in labor, and if the lady gave birth to a girl, they would immediately, without the mother even seeing the child, they would just put her in the ditch and cover it up. So this was the custom practiced by some of the Arab tribes. Others, they would neglect the child, they would let her live for a little while, and then they would go and bury her alive. They would just throw her in a ditch and cover her up. So this female infanticide was very common. Also, when we look at their social life, divorces were very common and innumerable. And it was all in the hand of the husband. He could go on and on divorcing a wife, remarrying, divorcing, remarrying. There was no limit to that. So this was a form of very inhumane treatment of women. Women had been reduced to the level of objects where men could just do with them as they pleased. They were not given any position or high status in society. And it was Islam which gave women dignity, which gave them their rights. So this was prevalent. And another thing, adultery was extremely common. Aisha radiallahu anha states that there were all kinds of horrible relationships between men and women besides nikah. Nikah was one relationship, the right relationship. Other than that, prostitution was very common. The prostitutes used to have these tents with flags flying on them. This was very common. It was a part of Arab society. And then also free mixing of genders and doing all kinds of immoral activities. It was very common in Arabia at that time. And it is amazing how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, although he was born under such circumstances, but he grew up an extremely chaste, pious and honest person who people all looked up to and they loved him. Now, one question arises in the mind. If this was the condition that was prevalent in Arabia at that time, how come Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose those people to send his last messenger to and his last message to? It seems a bit strange. So when we look deeply into the Arab culture and the Arab personalities and the Arab customs and traditions of the time, we find that despite all these negative influences, there were some extremely positive qualities about the Arabs. Number one, their hospitality. The Arabs were known for their generosity and hospitality. They used to treat the pilgrims. We have read about this in the last class, how when the pilgrims came to the Kaaba, they used to take pride in serving these pilgrims. So that was one very important characteristic of Arab society. They all used to try to outdo each other in generosity and in hospitality. And we all know that Ibrahim alayhi salam had set the sunnah of hospitality for the guests, and the Arabs complied with it 100%. Second important quality was the relationship, their upholding the blood relations. They were very conscious of this. Arab society was a tribal society. They did not have kings or we have a form of government, etc. At that time, they were split. There was a few kings here and there, the king of Himyar, Hira, etc., Yaman. However, most of the Arabs, they lived as tribes. And so there was the tribal system. Until and unless there were tribal affiliations, they couldn't have survived. So this was another very important quality they had. They would always stand by their people, no matter what. So this was the second very big quality about the Arabs, that they stood by their people. They never let their people down. The third amazing quality about the Arabs was that they upheld their covenants. When they gave a promise to somebody, they would not go back on their promise. They would not go back on their word. This is an amazing quality to have. They kept their commitments. Even if they had to give up their lives, they would not let go of their commitments. They upheld their covenant. And another very beautiful aspect of their lives was that they led very simple lives. Because they were living in the desert, they couldn't have lived in palaces and in luxury, etc. They lived very simple lives. And these were the qualities which were needed for the last message and the last messenger. Because if a person is used to living a life of luxury and a life of ease, then it is natural, it is human psychology that such people are not hardy, they are not hardworking. And to spread the message, you needed people who were hardworking, who would go out after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and spread this message to the rest of the world. So for that, there was nobody better suited than the Arabs, because they had all the basic ingredients which were necessary for the spread of this message. And thus Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose those people to send the last messenger to. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was nursed by his own mother, and he was also nursed by Thuwaiba. Thuwaiba was the slave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's uncle Abu Lahab. And at that time she was nursing her own baby Masruh. And she also nursed Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib radiyallahu anhu, and also Abu Salama bin Abdul Asad Makhzumi. And so all these three men became foster brothers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Razat ka rishta. You know, because of nursing, they all became brothers. Brothers because of being fed, being nursed by the same lady. So this is what happened with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was born. Now another amazing culture and custom of the Arabs at that time was, the Arabs thought that it is best that a newborn baby should be sent to live with a Bedouin family in the desert for the initial period when they are feeding, like 2 years or so. So they used to give away their newborn babies to these Bedouin women. For us it seems a bit strange. How can a mother part with her child? But for them there was a lot of wisdom in this. Makkah being a city, and also Makkah being the center where people from all over the place, all over the Arabian Peninsula would come to perform their Hajj and Umrah. So like even today we know, when a lot of people, a lot of tourists and people are coming, they bring with them all kinds of germs. So Makkah had all that. It had a big population influx all the time coming and going because of these tourists who were coming to perform the pilgrimage. So they wanted their babies to be raised up in a pure environment, away from all these germs. And the desert environment is very hot and very dry. In this hot and dry weather, germs do not grow. For germs to grow, a good culture medium is water and humidity and a bit of heat. So outside in the desert, there were very few germs, very few diseases. So they wanted their children to grow up in this healthy environment. And they also thought that these Bedouin women, their Arabic was very pure compared to the city dwellers, whose languages got a bit changed because of all these people coming from all over the world and they're mixing, etc. So they thought that their Arabic was not so pure, so they wanted their children to learn pure Arabic. So the custom that was prevalent at that time was that these babies would be given away to these Bedouin women who would take care of them for 2 years. And in return for that, they expected to be handsomely rewarded. So the child's family would then reward them handsomely. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, a group of women came from the tribe of Banu Sa'd bin Bakr bin Hawazin. They came to Makkah looking for children who they could carry back with them. Among them was a lady, Bibi Halima Sa'diya. Halima came with all her friends. All her friends went around to different houses looking for babies, and they all found babies. So they went back happily. Bibi Halima could not find any child. Abdul Muttalib wanted to give his grandson, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to a Bedouin woman, but none of the Bedouin women was ready to accept him. Because when they discovered that he's an orphan, they thought in their hearts, then these people will not be able to pay us handsomely. So nobody wanted to accept this orphan child. And Bibi Halima says that when she went back empty-handed, she said, I was feeling very sad. All my friends had babies in their arms and I was going home alone. So she said, I asked my husband, why don't we go and we take that orphan child? Her husband Haris agreed to that. He said, rather than going back empty-handed, I think it's better you just go and accept that orphan child. So Bibi Halima went and she took this orphan Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in her arms, and she came back. Now an amazing thing happened, which was that Bibi Halima Sa'diya and her friends, they had come to Makkah in a time when there was a drought going on. And these people were poor people. They had a flock of animals with them. They say that the animals found nothing to eat. So their udders were empty, they weren't giving any milk. So all these people, they were hungry, they were starving. And even Bibi Halima's own child, he was crying the whole night from hunger. Bibi Halima couldn't feed him because she herself was hungry. So the whole night she and her husband couldn't sleep because this baby was crying. And she said, the moment I took this child, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in my arms, and I took him home, I could nurse him and I could nurse my own baby. And she said it was incredible. That was the first night that we all slept soundly. Why? Because when my husband Haris, he went to milk the camel, he found that the camel's udders were full. And she said it was very surprising for us because a short while back, all these animals, they were just starving themselves, so there was nothing. Another amazing thing which happened was that the sheikh ass on which Bibi Halima was riding, because of hunger and fatigue, it was going very, very slowly. So all her friends, their mounts went further ahead and Bibi Halima's mount was the last one to come. But when she was returning, her she-ass ran so fast that it left all the others behind. So these people, I mean, they thought there is something going on. What is happening? These are the same animals. What's happened to them? But they were, of course, very happy. And they knew that these were Allah's blessings flowing on them. When they went back, they were again blessed tremendously. Whenever Bibi Halima's animals went out to graze, they would come back with their bellies full. And the people around them, their neighbors, they used to say, you graze your animals next to Halima's animals, because her animals are all coming back with full bellies. So they used to send their animals to graze with her animals, but their animals still came back with empty bellies, and Bibi Halima's animals came back with full bellies. And their udders were full, they would give lots of milk, her family slept on a full stomach, and Allah's blessings kept on and on pouring on this family. And they knew that it was the blessings that are coming from Allah because of this child. This is all written down in the books of Sahih, in the books of the Seerah, that these were the blessings that Allah sent on the family of Bibi Halima. Now, Bibi Halima kept Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for 2 years, according to the Arab custom, where she nursed him. At the age of 2, then she weaned him. She took him off the breast and she started giving him solid food. This was the time when she had to take the baby back to his mother and return him to his mother. In this interim period also, in the 2 years, every 6 months, Bibi Halima would take the child to meet his mother. But at the end of 2 years now, the time period was up, she had to take the child back. She did not want to. She went back to Bibi Amina and she said, well, it is time for me to return this child to you. But please, you know, the climate of Makkah is not suitable. There are so many epidemics going on. And this child is so happy. He has so many playmates out there. He plays with my children. And look at him. He has grown up so healthy and strong. So why don't you let him stay with us for a little while longer? So Bibi Amina, she said, but previously you didn't even want to take this child. What happened? So then Bibi Sadia narrated all the blessings of this child, and she kept on insisting to please let her have this child for a while longer. So finally Amina agreed, and so Bibi Halima, she took back Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for another 2 years with her. One day what happened was that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was nearly 4 years old, he had grown up to be a very beautiful, very strong, very healthy child, very loving, very obedient child. He was playing with the other children. Suddenly, Bibi Halima's children came back to Bibi Halima. And they said, mother, something is going wrong. She said, what happened? So they said, 2 men in white have come and they've killed Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Bibi Halima got up immediately and she rushed out. And when she went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she found him lying on the ground, all pale absolutely. So she said, what happened? And then the children narrated to her, and we know this from the hadith of Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu. He said that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the age of 4 was playing with children near Bibi Halima's house, Jibreel alayhi salam appeared. And he put Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam down on the ground. And then he opened his chest and he took out his heart. He opened the heart, and from inside the heart he took out a clot of blood. And he said, this is the portion of Satan in you. And then he threw that away. And then he brought a golden tray which was filled with Zamzam water. He washed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's heart with that, and then he put it back. So this is what happened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the age of 4. Bibi Halima got extremely scared for the child. Immediately she took the child, she consulted her husband, and she said, we can't take the responsibility of him anymore. So she took the child back to his mother. Now Bibi Amina was amazed. She said, a short while back, some time back, you were so insistent that you wanted to keep the child with you, and now you have suddenly brought the child back. What's happened? So at that, Bibi Halima narrated the whole incident. So Bibi Amina said, are you afraid for the child? She said, yes, I'm scared for him. So I cannot take his responsibility anymore. So Bibi Amina said, all right, then you return him to me. So that way, Bibi Halima let go of the child, and now Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a 4-year-old boy, he started living with his mother. He lived with his mother, Bibi Amina, for 2 years. After that, Bibi Amina thought that she would like to go and visit her own parents, her own families. So she took Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she went to Yathrib. Yathrib is Medina, where her own family used to live. And she took her father-in-law, Abdul Muttalib, with her, and also her maid, Ayman, Baraka. All of them accompanied. She lived in Medina for about a month, but on the way back she fell very sick and she passed away. So now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is 6 years old and he doesn't have a father or a mother. Abdul Muttalib picked him up and he put him to his heart, and he felt a love for him which he had not felt for anybody else. And he was the one, he stroked him and he brought him back. So now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the orphan, he starts living with his grandfather Abdul Muttalib. Okay, if you have any questions or comments about this.
You said there was a culture of divining arrows.
Ji.
So still we got fall from Quran.
Yes.
What is this?
Yes, all this is according to pagan traditions. There is no place for superstitions in Islam. There is no such thing in Islam. All these things are from the period of Jahiliyyah. As scientific people, as progressive people, as educated people, we know what is the significance of an arrow pointing to a yes or an arrow pointing to a no. How does an arrow have any brains? Does the arrow know the future? So this is predicting the future. Only Allah knows the future.
So
How can we ask an arrow what the future is?
Yes.
It is
So it's
totally contrary to deen.
taking fall from Quran is also wrong.
There is no such thing in deen of taking fall from anything. It is all
I've
wrong.
saw some people if they have any difficulty or question in their mind, they to Quran and open it like this, and
You see,
They
the
point to
Quran
some
is a guidebook. We need to read the Quran with translation, with understanding, and try to find the answer to our question. We can't just put our finger blindly on something and say if there is a no written here, it's a no, if there's a yes, it's a yes. That is not a part of deen at all. These are self-inventions, bidat. And bidats are all sins.
also, yes.
When the people come to perform Hajj, so the idols were present there
Yes.
during they are performing Hajj.
Yes.
So how their Hajj is grateful to Allah because the idols were present in Khane
Yes.
Kaaba.
Absolutely right. Until the victory of Makkah, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came as the conqueror of Makkah, that was the time when he removed all the idols. Before that, the idols were there and they were performing Hajj. The people, of course, out there, because they were mushriks. They claimed to be on Deen Ibrahimi, but they were mushriks, they were pagans, they were idolaters, they were worshipping idols. Okay, so shall we take a short break now? Okay, so let's take a short break and inshallah we'll carry on after that.